The story of Helen Keller. Page 12. Darkness and hope. For half a minute, close your eyes and cover your ears with your hands. For those 30 seconds, your world became a dark, silent place. If you were born this way, how could you learn right from wrong? How would you know who other people were? How could you talk to them? Page 13. This is what happened to a little girl named Helen Keller. She was born to loving parents in a small American town in 1880. When she was 18 months old, she became very ill with a fever. At that time, there was no medicine to help her. The little girl almost died. To her parents' relief, she survived. But she paid a terrible price. She had lost the ability to both see and hear. Page 14. Helen was raised in Tuscumbia, Alabama. Her father was a former army captain who owned a newspaper. They lived on a large farm outside of town. It had wide fields and a big barn where they kept several horses. But Helen could not see any of this. She couldn't see the green grass in the fields. She couldn't hear a dog bark. She had no way of knowing about birthdays, Christmas, or school. Page 16. There was nothing wrong with Helen's mind, but there was so much that she could not learn naturally. She was able to learn some things, though. She did learn how to find her way around the house and barn. And she learned a few signs, like pushing for go and pulling for come. She could also show her mother that she was thirsty or hungry. But she didn't know that people used words. Page 17. Helen also had a healthy body and wanted to play like other children. But when she ran, she would run into trees or fences. Then she would cry and not understand what had happened. Other children were afraid of Helen. Sometimes, she would hit them or break their toys. She could not see or hear them, so she did not know they had feelings like her. Once, Helen even pushed her baby sister from her bed onto the floor. Page 18. On Helen's 6th birthday, her mother prepared a special supper. She baked a chocolate birthday cake. When Helen smelled the cake, she ran into the kitchen. Quickly, she grabbed a handful of cake and put it into her mouth. Mrs. Keller took the cake and put it high up out of Helen's reach. But Helen did not understand, so she immediately started crying loudly. She kicked the table and swung her small fists. That evening, Mr. and Mrs. Keller sat by themselves at the supper table. They were both very sad. Page 19. She is becoming more and more wild, said Mrs. Keller. But I cannot punish her because she doesn't understand. Mr. Keller nodded. If only we could find someone who could help her, he said. Page 20. About a week later, Helen noticed a change around the house. Her mother and father were moving more quickly than normal. Her mother dressed Helen very nicely. Helen became excited. For the first time in her life, Helen rode on a train. She could not see the cars of the people. But she could feel that she was moving fast. Page 21. Mr. and Mrs. Keller took Helen to Baltimore, Maryland. A famous doctor who helped blind children lived there. When the doctor looked at Helen's eyes and ears, he had sad news. Helen will always be blind and deaf, he told them. But she seems to be very intelligent. Perhaps Dr. Alexander Graham Bell can help you find someone. Page 22. Dr. Bell was a very famous man. He had invented the telephone several years before. Now he helped deaf people. When Helen met Dr. Bell, she didn't know who he was. She could feel his warm smile with her fingers. Page 23. Dr. Bell told the Kellers about a school for blind children called the Perkins Institute. There is a doctor there who teaches blind children to understand words, said Dr. Bell. He spells the words on the palm of their hands. His name is Dr. Anagnos. Write to him and ask him to find a teacher for Helen. The Kellers returned to their home in Alabama. Life returned to normal for Helen. She did not know that her life was about to change. Page 24. After many months, Helen felt excitement around her house again. Suddenly, Helen felt new footsteps on the front porch. She ran toward the stranger. Helen's finger raced over the stranger's face, clothes, and suitcase. Helen could tell that the young woman had a nice, smiling face. The stranger took Helen's hand and led her inside. The young woman put both of Helen's hands on a doll. Then she did something strange. Page 25. She took Helen's hand and drew shapes on it. The stranger was spelling DOLL, but Helen did not know that. Again and again, the stranger spelled the word on Helen's hand. Helen became afraid. She threw the doll away and ran out the room to find her mother. This was Helen's first meeting with Anne Sullivan.